Well, here we are. It is Friday, February 24th, 2023, and this is the weekly video. We do these every Friday, talk about what's happened on eBay in the last week, what's going on in other auctions. There's a bunch of auctions coming up in New York, as many of you know, and we'll be, I'm sure, attending. Lots of things happening at Sotheby's, Christie's, Bonham's, Doyle's, and so forth. Freeman has a sale coming up a few weeks after, I think in early April. So there's a lot of material that's going to come onto the market. And many of the big auction houses are now doing online as well as live sales. It's really quite interesting, the phenomenon that's taking place down there with the changes in the business. It's really interesting. And we did a video today, you can check after this one, on the upcoming Important Chinese Works of Art sale at Christie's. And we have posted the catalogs on the site. Just come down as you always do and go to the red box here and go over to the catalog section, and we've added the Important Chinese Works of Art catalog is right there, right next to the Agut sale that we talked about last week. The sale over in France, they also have some nice things, especially that blue to hue ware. But this is the cover of the catalog with that fantastic folding chair. It's estimated at $2 to $3 million. And we go over the sale. We go over a number of the lots of the sale on the other video. So check it out. There's some good things in there. It's very interesting as always. And we'll see how of course, it'll all be a gauge of the market and what's happening. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the eBay results, there is a couple of sales coming up that popped up, and I want to bring your attention to it. This is at Everard Auctions and Appraisals in Savannah, Georgia. A couple of very nice they date them at 1825. I think they're a little older than that. I think these are from about 1800 to 1810. Rice harvesting, export paintings, beautifully framed too. The frame job on these are wonderful, and they look to be in very fine condition. These are done on paper. These are not pith paintings. These are on probably on English papers. Most of them are from Watman. Let's see, how big are they? They are framed 23 by 27 inches. These are big pictures. And they're estimated at 1,000 to 1,500. They've got one bid at 600. The sale is in 4 days. This is Everard Auctions and Appraisals. They've been added. They are on. They didn't post this sale until I think fairly recently, because I didn't notice these pictures before. They don't have much else of interest, but they have these, and these are really nice. These are very, very nice paintings. The sale is in just 5 days. So if you're interested in pursuing this, get onto it now, because you're gonna run out of time. And here's another thing that came up in the last couple of days. Now, this is for Elstob over in Elstob over in Ripon, United Kingdom. A very nice Chinese grisaille decorated plate with a portrait of Petrus Bodin within a circular panel. A very nice 18th century plate with all that very, very fine grisaille work. There's a picture of the back of it. It's got a very low estimate, 200 to 300 pounds. It should bring 700 to 1,000, somewhere in there. It should. But these days with the grisaille wares, it's hard to say. And it's a preview only. One of the things they do on Live Auctioneers is if they don't want to pay a fee for each sale, they can use Live Auctioneers as an advertisement, basically. So if you want to bid on the stuff, you have to go to their site, but you can preview it on Live Auctioneers. And they have this plate. It's quite a good one. If you're a grisaille or an early export buyer, you want to check that out. It's got a heraldic crest on it and all that good stuff. And this is Oak Ridge has a sale coming up. They have a lot of copies in the sale, but they also have some good things. The ones that we think look pretty good to us are already on the global pages. Check them out. If you go there on your own, be careful. Be careful. There are some pairs of bowls on there that they are calling mark and period, and I guess nobody bothered to try to read the marks because the marks are all written wrong, and they look like late copies to us. So I'm just a little heads up warning there, a little heads up warning. And then the last thing I want to talk about is this. This sale is tomorrow, and this is just a reminder. This is the John McGinnis sale in Amesbury, Massachusetts, not far from here. And they've got some pretty nice things. John he's a general auctioneer. His strongest background's in American furniture and decorative art, European stuff, and so forth. But he managed to land this sale. It's a lot of Japanese stuff. If you're a Japanese buyer, I'm sure you're aware of it. There is a pile of Kutani in this sale, Satsuma, cloisonne, all kinds of Japanese stuff. I think I know where the things came from because I think they come from a dealer who died about 10 or 15 years ago that lived in southern New Hampshire. And this looks like his old inventory, but it's good. He was very knowledgeable. He and his wife, if it's who I think it was, very knowledgeable dealers, and all good items here. And this is just the Kutani and Satsuma section here. It goes on and on and on and on. There's a lot of material. The sale is tomorrow. If you've bookmarked it, go back and make sure you're registered to bid. All right. I heard from somebody the other day they forgot to register. An auction came up and they went to register during the auction and they weren't accepting registrations once the auction got going. Do not try to register the morning of an auction. So if you're looking at this tonight, hit your registration form now. You'll probably get in time. All right, but there's some very nice Jinbari vases and other things. It's a good sale. It's a good sale, and it should do well. But and I think there's been a fair amount of interest in it. But it's some nice material. All right, so that's all set. Now over to eBay for the week. There were some very good results on here. As we mentioned last week, there was a downturn in content on eBay about 6 months ago, and I was a little concerned about it because there was so much less stuff. Normally, one of the searches we run pulls up anywhere from, just in the United States, 400 or 500 listings that are possibly worthwhile. And it was down to about 80 at one point. From this search thing. And now, all of a sudden, there seems to be a surge back, and a lot more material is coming back onto eBay, which is a good thing for everybody if you have an eBay account. And we're going to go through some of the results, because the results last week were pretty good, but there were also some great buys. All right, the first thing I want to talk about was the Rockefeller pattern plate, export plate, early 19th, late 18th century. A beautiful example. This was a really nice one. The gilding was all intact. And this is a platter, not a dish. And platters, of course, are much rarer. There are, a dozen plates for every single platter, so it makes a big difference. This plate was 17 3/8 inches. It was good size, sort of on the big side. Sold for $6,001. I thought it would bring around $3,500 to $4,500, but I tend to be a little conservative sometimes because I don't like to get people too far over their skis. But at any rate, this one did extremely well. But it was a beautiful example. And in a fancy gallery, this thing would probably retail out for $8,000 or $10,000. So at the end of the day, I think that's okay. All right. And then this was a little bit of a bargain. This was the Ceramics and Collectibles had this up. This was a really nice Japanese karak pattern plate made during the 1600s. Late 1600s. This is and it was big. This plate was about 15 or 16 inches in diameter. It was a beautiful piece of porcelain. It had a little kiln grit down in here, but it had that very classic early Japanese arita-ware with these sort of fluffy flowers floating around them, sort of rounded on the edges. They don't have the sharp edges that you see on the Chinese types. Very rounded, very smooth, and so forth. This was a nice plate. Somebody picked this up for $228. That was an absolute bargain. In the past, we've seen these big plates, and it wasn't instantly visibly recognizable as a big plate. This looks like an 8-inch dish without something in the picture to give you a hint. Put a wine bottle in the pictures if you think the viewer is going to have trouble, because the first impression is very important. The smaller dishes in this pattern are fairly common, and they usually sell for $150 to $250. But chargers that are approaching 15, 16 inches usually bring 5 times that, 4 times that. They do much better. So I think this was a matter of optics and how it looked, and people just didn't catch it. Or they saw it and just didn't bother to leave a bid, and they forgot when the closing was. One or the other. I don't know what happened, but it was a good piece of arita ware. And then the little Realgar Meiping vase, Qing Dynasty. This was just Starred Limited had this. He said it was 18th century. It might have been early 19th also, but it was a nice piece of Realgar. To me, it looks more 19th century, but it's sort of splitting hairs. At any rate, it ended up selling, I think, pretty reasonably, because in the past we've seen these Realgar bottles sell for $600, $700, $800. This one went for $462. A little bit under the money. It was a good buy. It was nice coloring, and it looked like it was in good shape. And then the pair of earlier 19th century Chinese celadon jars. These weren't enormous. These were fairly small. They were 15 centimeters tall, so they were 6 inches tall. They're fairly little. They're about that big, but very sweet and nicely potted with some nice decoration on them. They looked absolutely fine as far as age goes. Here's the base of them. They had the old sticker on there for Daoguan period, which probably isn't too far off. It's probably that's probably about right. They look good, and somebody picked the pair up for $580, which I think was a good buy. I think those were quite nice, and beautiful potting though. The shape of them was wonderful. And then over to this. This was that little. Again, this was Just Starred Limited. No, this is Trust Gives. This is the other guy. Had this little bronze vase. This was a small vase. It was only 3 or 4 inches tall, but very nicely done, very well done proportionally. The little details they gave to it were nice. It looked like it was in good condition. It had nice color. And somebody picked it up, I think, very, very inexpensively for was it $114 for this? Now, it wasn't big. I'm going to get you the height of this because the size matters. 9 centimeters tall, so it was around just a hair under 4 inches in height. But I think it was older than he did. He dated it to 1850 and 1899, and I think this to me looks like an 18th century bronze, especially with the applied base that they used on these. If I can get to it, hold on, I'll show you what I mean. There, this little metal ring at the bottom on the foot. There, here, this little extra bit on here, and the way this is turned, this looks like an earlier 18th century thing to me. Almost has the shape of some of the Kangxi vases that were done. I'm not sure it was Kangxi, but I'm pretty sure it was an 18th century bronze. And somebody got it very reasonably, $114. I think that was a great buy. And then that little Shawan vase that was done in the form of a Kangxi bronze. These low body Kangxi bronzes that you see occasionally. I've had them over the years. Sometimes they have chimeras or dragons on the shoulder instead of these ring handles, but very similar. This one was a very interesting piece of pottery. If you're the Shawan buyers, things from the Guangdong province, I think this was a nice thing. It had an old repair to it that they didn't really, in the description, they weren't sure what it was for, what the repair was. And it may have just been a flaw from the making, too, because I see a line coming through the body leading up to it. And this may have been just something that went awry in the making process. You'd have to blacklight it to really tell what happened there. But the rest of the piece was quite attractive and had a beautiful form. And this was a fairly small vase. It was only 6 inches tall, a little over 6 inches in height. But nice quality, very nice quality. And then the pair of rose mandarin 8-inch dishes. This was a surprise, $609. Very strong price. They were nicely done. They looked like they were in good shape. But that was a strong price, $300 a piece for rose mandarin dishes. That's sort of on the upper edge of what they typically bring. But it was 2 of them. And they sort of read as an associated pair, so sometimes people will pay extra for an associated pair. And then the Bengrong Tatsa. This was a big one. We talked about it last week because it was quite large. It was like 10 inches in diameter and nicely decorated, 19th century, and in very good condition. They said there were no noticeable repairs or damage to it. And this was a strong price. This was pretty big money for one of these. Normally they bring $1,500 to $2,200. So maybe there's maybe a sudden. And I noticed a few weeks ago there was a sale somewhere over in Europe that had some Bengrong pieces in it, and they also had very strong results. So it may be that there's a new group of collectors coming into this area. The Bengrong wares, Nonya Straits community stuff, things that are outside the normal collecting areas in Asia. In other words, not just Chinese, market period wares and things that were made for the Chinese market, but other Chinese porcelains, other porcelains made and used in other communities. I think may be becoming of interest, as we're seeing with the Annalise wares, the Blue to Hue wares, and now these. $4,161. Okay, I've been around long enough. I remember when these things would sell at auction. A Tatsa like this would sell for about $150, $100. And that wasn't that long ago, about 30 years ago. That's all they were worth. All right, and then this is an armorial, a little armorial English market mug. It's still got the label of the dealer that handled it. Charles Walker. There's the crest on the back between the two handles, the upper and lower section of the handle. The gilding was in pretty good condition, and it had the arms of the mark is the armorial mark is for the arms of Seaton. And this did pretty well, but then again, it was a memorial, so it brought $432. These little cans, as they call them, if it didn't have the armorial crest on it, this probably would have sold for about half that, or $250, somewhere around there. And then over to this, the little flambe glaze vase. I like this. I like flambe glazes. I know a lot of you do. This was a nice one. As I said, I thought last week I pointed it out because I just thought it was very nicely done. Wasn't a big one. It was 7 or 8 inches in height, as I recall. 6 inches height. Fairly small, but very nicely done. The bottom of it looked good. It had that brown dressing in the center, and this very nicely done white polished foot on the outside. It looked like an early 19th or late 18th century example. And it ended up selling for $1,261 for a 6-inch example. Gives you some idea how much interest there is in those things. All right, and then this, I don't know whether your reader buyers were last week, but they missed that wonderful charger. And this went for a song also. This is an early 19th century Japanese Arita dish with the characters on the side and that soft blue. And many of you that collect Japanese Arita will instantly recognize this pattern. It's very nicely done. For whatever reason, I don't know what happened. It went for $54, and this was from a seller over in the UK. I thought that was a steal. It was 7 inches in diameter, had no damage, and somebody got a great buy. That's a really good buy for an old piece of Arita ware. And then this was. It looks to me like it was misdescribed. The Chinese porcelain, large plaque and wooden frame, ladies in a courtyard. I looked at this pretty carefully, and this looks like it's on soapstone. I don't think this was on. I think they looked at it, and it looked like porcelain to them because the way it was glazed. And it was closed on the back. There's the back of it, and you can't see anything. But on the front of it, if you go up to it and use the magnifier here, put this on it there. You see the wear areas next to the woman on the up here. These areas of wear. That's the kind of wear you see on worn soapstone paintings on soapstone. And this was a nice thing. I think this was way under the money. If that's soapstone, that's hand carved soapstone. I think it was an absolute bargain. How big was this thing? 43 centimeters by 22 centimeters wide. So it was. What's that work out to? About 8 or 9 inches in diameter, which is about right for soapstone plaques, and 2.5, 3 feet tall. Nice looking thing. I think that was a great buy. $463, and the shipping was very reasonable. But I get it. If one of you bought it and you get it, let me know. But it sure looks like soapstone to me, which is a bonus. But the painting on it was excellent. This was a 19th century stone. This was probably mid-19th century, I'm going to bet, mid to late, somewhere 1850 to 1890, somewhere in there. But very attractive. And then over to this. Whoops, what's that doing there? All right, is this little silk panel. It's a nice one. And for some reason, silks have always been doing quite well lately, and this one didn't take off. And it may be because it had some staining. I thought about that after we put it on there. It has a stain in the middle, and it's got some staining up here. And you can get that cleaned off. Usually you take it to a good textile conservator, and they can soak it and get a lot of that out. But this area may not all come out. But the rest of it was pretty nice. Pretty nice. So this would clean up substantially. And somebody picked it up for $305, which I think is about $300 less than it probably should have brought, in my opinion. And then the Chinese export dish, Daoguan, dated to the Daoguan period. There's this is one of those wonderful Arabic marked plates. We talked about this last week because I thought this was a very nice example. And this plate in this pattern, without the Arabic inscription, just the gilding and the blue and white, the blue enameling and all that. How big was this? 8 inches or something? 9 inches? 6 inches across. Okay. Without the Arabic in the middle, this 6-inch dish is worth about $100 to $125. About $500 of the value here is because of that, and it's dated, which really makes it unusual. So I think add all that up, it has a big impact on the value, and I think it was a good thing to buy, nice thing to buy. It caught my eye. I thought it was great. And then that nifty brooch, 24 karat gold with apple jade, very nice pin. This was sold by my friend Steve up in New Hampshire, who gets a lot of house calls. He gets into good things. And there was this in that magnificent box, $1,408, very reasonable. If you go to England or Hong Kong and try to buy a pin like this, it's going to cost you about $3,000. So that was a nice thing. That was a great thing. And then what's on this page? Oh yeah, a pair of, this week I had a couple of emails from people interested in the rooster dishes, rooster porcelains. I actually had one, and then I had another one on the inquiry side. And here's a couple of them. These are 18th century with roosters on them. And maybe one of you guys bought this. The pair of them went for $773, but rooster pattern, very popular. Very, very popular among collectors. And then last is this 19th century Chinese bottle vase, very well decorated. And this was an older one. When I first saw the pictures, I was a little worried. I said, is that thing old? And it is. Now, it's got a Kangxi mark on the bottom. It's obviously not Kangxi, but the one look at that foot rim and the tone of these enamels tell you it's a 19th century vase, certainly. And probably, 1830 to 1870, somewhere in there maybe. Judging by the shape and the way the foot was fashioned and the quality of the decoration. That was a little out of focus. There you go. Very, very nice pot. And it went for $2,075, and it was 34 centimeters high, so it was just about 13 inches in height, but very attractive. $2,075. All right, and then things that are coming up, there's a bunch of things on here that are closing. This week's on the newsletter page, there's going to be a whole bunch of new listings, and we're going to finish up some of the listings that are on the page currently. And if you don't use the newsletter page or you forget about it, a couple of things you can do. Come over and just sign up for it. This is completely free. We don't charge for this. It's been free. This last week was the 466th volume we've done every week now for over 8 years. And 466, 467 will be this weekend. And if you want to get notified the minute we update the page every Friday and put up the new videos and stuff, just sign up right here. It's free. We need your email address. You can put whatever name you want in. I don't care. We don't share the list with anybody. And you'll get notified as soon as the pages are updated. The newsletter page is updated, and we drop the videos in here. And this is what you'll see. And there's a lot of things on here. And we do try to put things on the bottom for the global pages to give you a taste of what's over there. If you haven't subscribed, you might find it interesting and might tempt you to joining, because it's one of the ways we finance the site itself. And it's good to have support from the community for that. Now, and thank you to those of you that do. You're really appreciated. I want you to know that. So at any rate, this is the page, and you sign up over here, a little form, and you're all set. All right, and then you'll get notified. All right, and some of the things that'll be on there this week when it comes up. Go back to the beginning here. Is this very nice double-handled bronze, probably late Ming, nicely done. It's up to 177. Should go to 700 or 800 before it's over. If it doesn't, you got a good buy. And then this one, very nice. This is Asian Arts over in the Netherlands, and he's got some interesting. He gets interesting things. And in here is this Chinese enameled on silver, and Chinese enamel on silver like this is quite rare. You don't see it very often. It became a little more popular during the early 20th century, but they do very well. I remember years ago I went to an estate auction for the estate of Crosby Forbes, who wrote the famous book on Chinese export porcelain. And he had an enameled Peking silver teapot in that sale. And it went for, I think, $18,000, something like that. They're very unusual. They don't turn up often, and that was 10 or 15 years ago. All right, and this guy has a number of these Chinese silver enamel pieces. They'll all be in there. This closes on Monday. It's up to $510, and I expect it's going to bring 3 or 4 or 5 times that at the end. But it's a nice thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's in good condition, and it's signed. And if you want to go over and take a look it up, you can go over onto the the reference section over here, and you can look up the book. Just type in, I don't know, I haven't mentioned this in a while, I probably should. If you come over to the bookcase and type in silver, the yellow book, all right, is this wonderful by Adrian von Furst. He is probably the leading scholar in the world on Chinese silver. He's researched it. This is a 1,000-page book. He made it available for free. How great is he? And absolutely beautifully done. And it has all of the makers in alphabetical order. We're going right through with their marks and examples of their work. And there's an extensive beginning explaining how the silver is produced, the history of silver making, and all that. It's a very good book. If you like Chinese silver, read the book. It's well worth the time. All right, now back over here. There's another taza, they're calling it Ben Krong. I don't think it actually is Ben Krong. I think it just has that shikshi pattern on it. But I love the description. It made me laugh. Chinese antique porcelain, Ben Krong footed dish, Nonya and Daisai Thai market. Sort of a little bit of everything. It's a genuine thing. It's 19th century, and it's up to $140. And how big is this thing? Size matters. 6 inches in diameter, so it's a good bit smaller than the other one, but it should still get into the $600 to $800 range by the time it's done, I would think. All right, and then over here, Migulari is back, and he's got this very nice cafe au lait bowl with underglazed blue, beautifully decorated. Beautifully decorated. I love the colors of it. And I was looking at this. He just dated as 18th century because he tends to be a little bit conservative on the dating. But I was looking at this footroom. This sure looks like a Kangxi base to me. And I think that right now it's got 8 days, almost 9 days. It just went up. It's only been up for a day or so. It's just up to $6. It's about 10 inches, 9 inches in diameter, as I recall. Yeah, about 10 inches in diameter. It's 25 centimeters. It's close enough. It should bring $500 to $700, but right now it's at $6.61. Go leave a bid on that. And then this is a well-known type of tea caddy, this form, but this pattern is quite unusual. Now it's carrying an old Samuel Marchant label on the bottom. I don't know if they sold it or not, or somebody found an old label and put it on there. That does happen, but maybe not. It's certainly, it's Kangxi. It's certainly good enough for them to sell. They like good Kangxi wares. They sell, on a wide range. And it had an old repair to the lid. It looks like that lid got broken in half, judging by that line. It was put back together, and then they did one of those really terrible overpainting jobs where they just overpaint everything. I generally tell people, if you get one of these that has this old overpaint on it, it's ugly. You might want to take a little acetone, scrape some of it off, and see what it looks like underneath. It may be fine. It may just be covering up a hairline. But if it's got filler and a bad repair, take the lid to somebody that knows what he's doing and get it cleaned up. All right, this is up to $63.99. It has an unusual pattern, that blue pattern on the front with the flowers. It's a little bit different. That's a bit unusual. This should bring $250 to $350. Right now it's at $63. It's got six and a half days to go roughly. Roundhouse Antiques is selling that. And then the dragon robe. Now they're calling this 18th century. It's not an 18th century dragon robe. It's a 19th century robe, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a pretty typical 19th century robe, but it's a nice one. Looks like it's in fairly good shape. I see a few little pulls on it here and there. You want to go over it carefully. The collar's looks like it's got a bit of wear up in here and a few little gaps and separations, which is kind of normal if it's been worn. But overall, it looks quite good. The colors still look pretty good, and it probably is dirty. It probably needs to go out to a textile conservator or something. It's got 7 days to go. It's up to $460. Should bring $4,000 to $6,000, maybe more. But we'll see. We'll see. That's generally where they end up. At the last minute, they spike up. And this is from San Francisco Collector out in San Francisco, California, who's been getting some pretty good things lately. And then a rather unusual export punch bowl. If you like export wares and you like them a little bit unusual, this is being listed. It's an 18th century bowl with this European seed within a cartouche. There's a bit of wear to it. I think this bowl has been, as they say, well loved. But I like this. I like the tent. The tent I find curious out here. You don't see tents very often in Chinese paintings. But this is a nice thing. You got some men in a boat coming across with supplies. Maybe it's Holland or someplace. If somebody knows the scene, let me know. It's got a hairline in it, but it's all molded and reliefed. And the seller's calling this, what he calls it, Meissen-style porcelain bowl. 18th century. It is 18th century. This is from Migolari again. It's not perfect, but it's interesting. If you like interesting types of export wares and you collect export wares, you might want to look at this and say, gee, that is unusual. I haven't seen that one. Or if you have seen one, maybe you've seen one and always wanted one. Well, there's your chance. It probably won't bring a heck of a lot of money because it's got repairs and stuff to it. But I think it's a piece to own and study. I think it's interesting. I think it's certainly worth considering. And then over to this. This is a very peculiar bowl. It has sort of a soft, the color, the background color. And I first saw this, I wasn't sure it had any age. I don't know what the heck it was. And you look at the inside of it with this pattern, the way this looks and so forth. It's done like an 18th century bowl, but I think it's probably an early 19th century one, maybe from the Jiajing period, judging by the foot rim and this rather atypical ground color. It's sort of a greenish brown color. It's a very odd tone. And the decorations on the outside are very different. These are really unusual flower and butterfly decorations here on the outside. I think this is a pretty great thing. It's not a huge bowl. It's about 5 or 6 inches, 5 inches in diameter or something. But a very unusual pattern. And very unusual ground color. I think that's got something going for it. Right now it's up to $25. It's got 5 days to go. It closes next Thursday. But if you like oddball pieces, that's something to consider. And then this, you have a Kangxi blue and white footed food vessel. You can see the holes over on the side. It looks like there's the bottom of it. There's the side of it. The wire handles have been removed. Looks like there's a little blemish or something up there. But overall, this is a nice looking pot. Closes tomorrow. It's up to $2,938, and it'll probably get up close to $3,500 to $4,000, I suspect, by the time it's done. But it's a nice thing. It's a genuinely nice thing, and the quality of decoration looks quite good on it. It's dirty, though. I can tell from the pictures. It looks like it needs a bath in places. It looks like there's some ground-in dirt that the seller didn't get off, or couldn't get off. Maybe it needs a strong cleaner. But this is a nice-looking porcelain. All right, so check that out. And then this is JG Arts Limited, again, JG Arts, or however he pronounced it. There's this nice little late 18th, early 19th century nephrite jade figure of a beggar or a boy. It's up to $122, and this will do pretty well at the end, I suspect. $600 to $900, something like that. And then this is also JG Arts Limited. Is this very nice little smoky, what did he call it? It looks like, he says a carved crystal. It looks like smoky quartz to me. You'd have to verify that. Well, it doesn't really matter. It's the work that you're paying for. But there's very nice relief carving on here where there was some inclusions or something, and they did it this way. But nice looking thing. It's got looks like the stopper is later, but the bottle looks like a early to mid 19th century one. It's very, very nice. You want to check with the seller and see if is that a chip on the bottom, or wait, let's look at the pictures here. Hold on. That's the top. Okay, so no, it's not a chip. It's the bottom of the inclusion from some quartz here that's still present on the foot. Anyway, that's a nice piece of snuff. That's a nice snuff bottle. It's got 2 days to go. It's only up to $16. I don't know why. That should bring $300 to $400. So if you're a snuff bottle buyer, check that out. He's got several snuff bottles, as I recall. So go through it. There are many other things that we're going to be adding to the newsletter this week, but that's just a sort of a taste, but it'll be on the page. And I think there's going to be a little something there. And like I've always said, just leave a bid. Those of you that missed out on some of the bargains, don't be afraid to leave bids. eBay will tell you if you won, and if you leave a bid that you'd be, somebody said to me once, I only leave bids that I would be thrilled to get the item at. In other words, he puts down the absolute greatest price you could possibly imagine. And every once in a while, the guy gets something phenomenal for next to nothing. It does happen. So certainly worth the way to do it if you're not working on an unlimited budget. Most people aren't. Most people that collect Chinese porcelain have a budget. They know what they can spend, and that's fine. Welcome aboard. So you figure out what you can afford, and leave a bid accordingly. And if you can't afford a perfect piece, buy a piece that needs a repair, a piece that's orphaned, a piece that needs a friend. Take it in, and sometimes you get some great buys that way. So keep that in mind. All right, and that's it for the week. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't so far. Leave a comment down below. Share the video. Put it on your website if you want. I don't care. Somebody said, "Do you mind if I link you on my website?" I said, "No, go ahead." I said, it's fine. There's a guy in England. He's got a bunch of our videos on his site. I noticed. I was doing a search for something, and one of the videos came up is in the search query, which was interesting. Anyway, that's fine. We're not too proprietary around here. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Check out the video from Christie's on the upcoming Important Chinese Works of Art sale, and have a wonderful weekend. It's supposed to be colder than blazes here this weekend. It's supposed to be we got snow the other day. It's wild. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.